So the title of this video is "There's No Place." At least I think it will be. You never know, but there's no place because what I want to talk about is, this what I'm always talking about, what this message is about. It's usually, essentially summarized, there's no me. There is no one. Which also refers to the fact that there is nothing. There's nothing happening. There's nothing here. And all of those can seem to be pretty remote statements, very abstract. Everybody knows, if you're vibing with this communication, then you're, probably here to hear about how there's no me. And that everything is nothing. Nothing being everything. But all those things, they can seem very abstract, and you can hear it for years, and really it's always very far away somehow. Each of those, they're all formulations of the same non-thing thing, the same nothing that's somehow being spoken about, pointed to. But all of those different expressions, there's no me, there's no one here, nothing happening, no world, no experience, just nothing here. Yeah, hard to really make anything out of any of it. And of course, as I just started to say, it's nothing. That's what we're on about here. So, there's no way to make it, to convert it into easy food, because it isn't food. It isn't anything that can be held onto or taken in any way. It's just the way it is. And although, you'll hear non-duality speakers will say something that you'll hear a lot is, well, there really is no paradox. Well, true, I guess. Fair enough, because if there's just nothing, how could there be a paradox? If there's not two, then there's nothing. A paradox is really two things that don't fit together, don't jibe, that just kind of have to sit independently without really being made into one. So naturally, it's natural to say, well, there is no paradox. Yeah, okay, yeah. But paradoxically, there also is a paradox, because again, the fact that we're speaking, we're appearing, or whatever that means. This is a video. This is a person apparently talking to who knows what. Well, that's all paradoxical, given that there's just nothing. Or just say it simply, it's paradoxical that something is appearing, that we can even talk about something when really there's nothing. How do you put those two things together? Paradox is the word that I would use. Again, you won't hear that from a lot of non-duality speakers. They'll just say, well, there's no paradox. There's just this, and it's not paradoxical. It just is what it is. And again, fair game too. That makes sense. I will say, you'll hear me say that. You probably hear me say pretty much everything at some point. And that is maybe paradoxical or not. But back to there's no place. I started to say there's all these different expressions of ways of pointing to nothing, pointing to what is, and the nature of it. The nature of it that isn't the way it seems to me, to the me experience. I mean, that's kind of what this communication is all about. Responding to this me experience that is, the experience is a particular kind of thing. It has a form to it. It's an animal that we can recognize. That's why these communications are all very similar, because they're responding to the same thing, responding to this me experience, which we can get a handle on and describe, and then, in a sense, put it alongside, I don't know, just this. Kind of play with these two characters. I don't know. I mean, I was just a way of talking about what this is all about. We address the me because there's a response to that. There's an experience of me. There's an experience of separation. That's the thing to be responded to. That's why I'm talking. But then at the same time, there's the communication, which is pointing out, saying, celebrating, indicating that it's not what it seems to be. That me experience is not what it seems to be. This reality is not what it seems to be. And it's nothing. And it's no one. This one who's having this experience, this difficult experience that's hard to get a handle on, is really actually nothing and no one. So back to the topic again, which is there's no place. And all I'm saying is that, when we say there's no me, and there's nothing here, no experience, no world, no happening, no story. What that means is that, the reason we can say that, the reason we say, or in a sense, or one of the ways of understanding what this is all pointing to, is that, there's no me. What does that mean? In a way, it doesn't mean anything. Because what even is a me? You kind of have to know what a me is to have a statement, there's no me. So that makes the whole business a little bit dicey and kind of cavalier, because, we're saying, there's no me. And that kind of assumes that there's some kind of knowing of what me is in the first place. And there is a little bit. We all have a sense of what that is. It makes sense, but not really. There's really no knowing of what anything called a me is. Same business with the world. You can say there's no world here. It's easy to say that because it all comes from there's nothing. So obviously if there's nothing, there's not a world. There's not a me. You could do that. Sort of like neti. But the point is, the reason, you could just say, the reason that we can say there's no me is because in order for there to be me, whatever that is, there has to be some place for the me to have its existence. There has to be a stage, a place, an arena, some kind of setting, let's say, for the me to show up and be. And so we can know what it is. Because to say that me is here, that there is a me, means there's a knowing of me, which means it's here in a place. If there's a place for the me to be, then I can be here, can have my life, I can have my existence, I can, flourish as everything that I can be, as me. But without that place, without that space for the me to inhabit, you could call it a house, you could call it a world. We mentioned before that there's no world. We're kind of getting at that here. What that means is there's no place for a me. Me is, this one who's having this life, this experience, is that one is a story in time that's known. If it's not a story and it's not in time and it's not known, what is it? There's nothing left without those things. So when the me shows up, so let's say, the me exists. I'm sitting here, I'm saying, I've got this me, this experience of being the me with all of its conditions and all of its problems and all of its situations. Well, how is that able to happen? Well, because I know the story of this one. I know all the features of the experience, all the things that go together to make it, all the strands, that are tied together to make me. But where is that happening? Where is that place that's holding this story of me? I'm calling it a story now because we're realizing that that's what me is made of. All these story strands, these threads of knowing, these little pieces of this and that, all put together to make me this ongoing movie. But where is it happening? It's got to have somewhere to be. If there's nowhere, there's no story. There's no person. If there's nowhere for the person to be. So that's the point of this little talk here. That's what there isn't. There is no place. The only place there is that's not back in the same story that we made the me out of in the first place, the only place that isn't that is this, just this. What is, it doesn't have any space to it. It's not in time. It doesn't have any condition to it. It can't be seen, it can't be described. It's living, it's life. There's nobody seeing it. There's no one outside of it reporting on it. There's no one citing this place. No one's ever been there, right? It's this. Already this, always this. Doesn't have any qualities to it. And it certainly doesn't have, there's no place. It doesn't have a bottom to it. It doesn't support anything. It doesn't support a story. doesn't support a me, doesn't support a world. All of that is in its own place, let's say. This is the world's, all the me's, all the people, the persons, all the stories, all the realities are their own place, which is, we could call it imagination, we could call it dream, we can call it, well, it doesn't matter what we call it, but it's not here is the point, because here is the place. This is the place there is, and this doesn't have anyone in it. It doesn't hold anyone. It doesn't hold anything. That's the point. So, then it's easy to see. There's no me. The me, the sense of me, the feeling of me, the story of me. It's just words. It's just, well, it doesn't have anything to it, anything solid to it, right? All that thing that we call real. It's too, it isn't solid enough to be real. It doesn't have what it takes to be real. Imagination, dream, it can't be, well, it can't be found. This can't be found, but neither can the appearance be found. It shows up, it's here, it looks, we can see it, can feel it, but again, where is it? There's no place for me, there's no place for an appearance, and there's no place for this. Because this, again, isn't a place. It's the only place that is, but it's not a place. It's not placed anywhere. It's not placed in relation to anything. It doesn't make sense to call it a place. Doesn't make sense to call it an experience. Doesn't make sense to call it. That's why it's nothing. Call it nothing. It's nothing being everything, because everything is also here in this place that's not a place.